You won't leave this the same man who started it. This isn't hype. This isn't noise. This is a mirror and a hammer. For the man who's done pretending. For the man ready to break and finally rebuild. This is your hour. And if you're brave enough to stay until the end, you won't be weaker. You'll be wiser. You'll be stronger. You'll be real. Welcome to Deckwood Audiobooks. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The hour that breaks you is the hour that builds you. You don't rebuild without breaking first. You've been taught to avoid the fall, to fear the breaking point, to hold yourself together, even if that means living a lie, to smile through the collapse, to act like you're in control, even when you're unraveling. But here's the truth. Sometimes, the breaking is the beginning. Sometimes, the collapse is the invitation. And most of the time, the man you become only shows up after the one you were has fallen apart. Because no man rebuilds without first watching something collapse. No man rises without first hitting the ground. There is no resurrection without the death of an illusion. No rebirth without the burial of what no longer serves. And maybe this is your ground. This moment, this chapter, this hour. Maybe you're standing in the middle of your own ruin, thinking it's the end, not realizing it's the place you finally stop running. It doesn't feel like a beginning, does it? It feels like failure, like disappointment, like shame that clings to your bones, like silence that screams louder than anything you've ever heard. But under that, under the ruin, is the truth. This is where the real work starts. This is the hour that doesn't offer you escape. It demands evolution. The illusion of strength has to die first. You've performed strength long enough. You've shown the world a version of yourself that looked solid but was hollow. You've smiled in rooms where you wanted to scream. You've posted wins while hiding losses. You've mastered the art of appearing put together while falling apart. But real strength doesn't perform. It doesn't beg to be seen. It doesn't post its pain or dress it up for validation. It breaks, and then it builds. True strength isn't shiny. It's scarred. It's silent. It's still. And it doesn't care who's watching. And the men who have it didn't read about it in a book. They bled for it. They were dragged through hell and came back holding blueprints. They shattered. They failed. They faced truth so uncomfortable it nearly undid them. But they didn't run. They stayed in the fire. They let it burn what needed to go. They didn't rescue themselves too early. And because of that, they didn't just heal. They hardened. And from that fire, they emerged unshakable. Not perfect, not polished, unshakable. Your collapse wasn't the end, it was the door. The hour that breaks you will feel cruel. It will feel like betrayal, like the world gave up on you, like everything you built fell apart too easily. You'll want to numb it, explain it, escape it. You'll want to talk your way out, pray your way out, distract your way out. Don't. This is the doorway, not into destruction, but into depth, into honesty, into real clarity, into a kind of grounded man who sees the day is all the times of clear clay, because when the world sees you fall, they'll assume you're done. But what they don't know is that some men break open, and that break becomes the foundation. You're not fragile, you're being reforged. And if you stay with the process, if you sit in the ashes long enough, you'll see the shape of something new rising. And the hour that breaks you might just become the hour you remember for the rest of your life. Not because it hurt, but because it woke you up. Break the illusion. Face the reality. Stop pretending you're fine. Stop dressing wounds like badges. Stop quoting men who walked through fire while you avoid the smoke. Stop performing for people who wouldn't even notice if you disappeared. Stop asking people who don't know your war to understand your scars. Drop the mask, sit in silence, feel the weight you've been avoiding, the grief, the guilt, the shame, the questions, the fears. Because on the other side of that pain is power. Real, permanent, earned in blood power. Power that doesn't waver when people leave. Power that doesn't collapse when plans do. This isn't self-help. This is self-resurrection. You're not here to be motivated. Motivation is cheap. This is about identity. Rebirth. Final word. The breaking is sacred. If you're in the dark, stay there a moment longer. Let it strip away the lies. Let it bury your old self. Let it quiet everything fake and loud and weak. Because the man you're becoming isn't born in comfort. He's born in the quiet wreckage of what used to be. He rises not in applause, but in silence. And when you walk out of this hour, broken, raw, and real, you won't be weaker. You won't be lost. You'll be wiser. And that wisdom? It's the first tool in your hand. Not a weapon, not a shield, but a hammer. Time to rebuild. Let's begin. Chapter 2. You've been lied to by comfort. Comfort doesn't love you. It weakens you. Comfort isn't your friend. It's not safety. It's not peace. It's the trap, dressed like a gift. The slow death served warm. Most men are trained to crave it. Conditioned from the beginning to chase what feels good, what looks easy, what doesn't demand too much. But what feels good often leaves you weaker. You've been lied to. Lied to by the culture that told you happiness was the goal. Lied to by people who called numbness peace. Lied to by systems that sell sedation and call it success. Here's the truth. Comfort is a liar. It softens your edge. It whispers, "You've earned this," when you haven't. It rewards nothing and takes everything. Comfort doesn't love you. It consumes you. It makes you small, soft, untested. And then it abandons you when life gets hard and you've got nothing real left inside. This chapter is your wake-up call. The sedation of the modern man. Everywhere you turn, there's a screen selling escape. A voice saying, "Take it easy." A philosophy that worships ease and demonizes discomfort. You're told not to push too hard, not to feel too much, not to face what hurts. You're medicated, distracted, and entertained, until you're too dull to feel the hunger that once drove you. But real men? They don't need sedation. They need fire. Discomfort isn't the enemy. It's the beginning of strength. And every hour you spend numbing is an hour stolen from your potential. You don't build muscle without tension. You don't forge character without pressure. And you damn sure don't become a man by avoiding everything that hurts. Comfort protects the ego, but destroys the soul. The ego loves comfort. It craves validation. It wants applause without effort. It wants growth without pain. But the soul was made for deeper things. It was made for discipline, for pursuit, for depth. Comfort will keep your ego intact, while your soul withers in silence. And when that happens, you'll feel the quiet ache, the dissatisfaction you can't explain, the subtle hatred of your own reflection. That's the cost. You'll feel successful on paper, but dead inside. You'll look accomplished, but feel unfulfilled. Because deep down, a man knows when he's faking it. Growth lives on the edge of discomfort. The most honest parts of you are not found in luxury. They're found when you're under pressure, when you're alone, when it's cold, when you're uncertain, when you have to dig deep just to take the next step. That's where growth happens. That's where your limits stretch. That's where your identity is earned. Comfort gives you ease. Discomfort gives you evidence. You know who you are when things are easy. No. You know who you are when it all falls apart. You know who you are when things are easy. No. You know who you are when it all falls apart. You know what you stand for when the money's gone, when the people disappear, when the plan breaks. That is where you meet yourself. You were not made to be numb. You were made to feel, to fight, to fail, to rise again. You were made for risk, for courage, for the tension between what is and what could be. And every time you choose comfort over challenge, you betray that design. You get weaker, smaller, slower. You don't feel it at first, but over time, it shows in your body, in your work, in your energy, in your integrity. The numb man dies slowly, one quiet compromise at a time. Reclaim the fire. So what now? You stop running from the hard things. You start welcoming the fire. You cut the distractions, you face the discomfort. You train your body. You discipline your mind. You remind yourself that you don't need easy. You need meaning. And meaning doesn't live in comfort. It lives in pursuit. You reclaim the hunger, the aggression, the standard. You show up even when it's cold, even when you're tired, even when no one claps. Especially when no one claps. You do the work. Every day, quietly, on purpose. Because comfort doesn't love you. But discomfort, it respects you. It refines you. It builds you. And right now, that's exactly what you need. Let's keep going. Chapter 3. You are the architect and the arsonist. You built it. You burned it. Now build better. A man must face a brutal truth. He is both the maker and the destroyer of his own life. No one else. Every foundation you've cored, every wall you've torn down, every habit that holds you, every decision that haunts you. You were the architect when you built that, the context of the insensitive part. You've built that version of yourself. And you were the arsonist when you set fire to the things that mattered most. Your discipline, your relationships, your standards. And now you stand in the ashes, wondering how it all came down. But hear this, ashes aren't the end. They're the beginning. The fire was necessary. Maybe you needed to burn it down. Maybe that version of you was never meant to last. Maybe you kept building a life that looked strong from the outside, but was hollow at the core. Sometimes the fire is mercy. Sometimes the collapse is the cure. Because only when the old structure is gone can the new one rise, solid, real, tested. So if you're standing in the wreckage, good. That means it's time to start again. Smarter, sharper, with blood in your mouth and resolve in your spine. Blame no one, not even yourself. Regret is a trap. You can't build forward if your hands are full of resentment, even if it's resentment toward yourself. You made mistakes. Good. That means you were moving. That means you were trying. That means you're alive. What matters now is this. Will you use what broke you, or let it break you again? Will you stay down, mouth full of excuses? Or will you rise, jaw clenched, ready to build something better? You are always building something. Every day you lay bricks, with your words, with your actions, with what you allow, with what you tolerate. You're always constructing something. The question is it a temple or a prison? You don't become a man by accident. You don't end up with strength, honor, discipline, peace by default. You build it, brick by brick, habit by habit, choice by choice. And when you break what you build, when you torch your progress out of fear, laziness, or pride, you are the arsonist too. Own that, then move. Burn the right things. There's a kind of fire that destroys and a kind that purifies. Don't just burn your past. Burn the parts of you that held you back. The cowardice, the entitlement, the addiction to comfort. Burn the lies you told yourself. Burn the distractions you let win. Burn the man you pretended to be. And from that flame, Forge the man you are meant to become. Not perfect, not polished, but clear, unshakable, clean. The blueprint is inside you. You already know what needs to go. You already know what needs to rise. You don't need another book, another podcast, another plan. You need to sit in the wreckage, grab a shovel, and start building. No applause, no shortcuts, no guarantees. Just the daily grind of rebuilding something worth living in. Because whether you admit it or not, you are the architect. And yes, you were the arsonist. But you are also the one who decides what comes next. So build wisely. And let the fire you started forge you. Chapter 4. Discipline is the death of excuse. Discipline is not a punishment. It's a declaration. I will not be owned by weakness. There comes a moment, not loud, not dramatic, when a man decides, no more excuses, no more hiding, no more drifting through life while calling it fate. That moment doesn't require motivation. It requires decision. It requires a man to bury the voice in his head that says, tomorrow, and to replace it with now. Because nothing changes until you do, and nothing lasts until discipline replaces desire. Excuse is the language of the weak. Excuses are elegant. They sound reasonable. They feel justified. But they're the most dangerous language a man can speak, because they rob him of ownership. I'm tired. I don't have time. I don't feel like it. All perfectly logical. All completely irrelevant. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't ask for permission. It's not interested in fairness, feelings, or fear. It only asks one question. Did you show up? Because the man who shows up, tired, unmotivated, uncertain, is already stronger than the man who waits for the perfect moment. The lie of motivation. You don't need motivation. That's the first lie the weak believe, that they must feel like doing something in order to do it. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the fire. Motivation is inconsistent. Discipline is undefeated. Motivation dies in the cold. Discipline shows up in the snow. When it's dark, when it's thankless, when nobody's watching. Especially then. You can scroll for hours hoping for the right quote, the right speech, the right playlist. But deep down you know, none of it works if you don't work. Discipline is what remains when the hype fades. It's what builds men while others sleep. Discipline is doing what's required, long after it's no longer exciting. Everyone is disciplined for a week or two, when the gym is new, when the routine feels heroic, when people are clapping. But a man who wins, he keeps showing up when it's mundane, when it's lonely, when the results are invisible. He doesn't need applause. He doesn't need validation. He doesn't need to feel like it. He shows up because he made a contract with himself, and he honors it daily. That's discipline. Not a moment, not a burst, not a trend, a lifestyle. Every excuse you cling to is a chain around your potential. Excuses aren't harmless. They're prison bars. They feel safe because they're familiar. But they're the walls keeping you from becoming what you could be. Excuses shrink you. They blind you. They make you believe your limitations are facts. But the truth, the only thing standing between you and a better life, is you. Not your job, not your past, not your genetics, not your schedule. You. Discipline removes the alibi. It forces the mirror into your hands. It says, if you don't like what you see, change it. No one's coming to save you. But you don't need saving. You need discipline. Discipline is freedom. The world teaches you the opposite. That freedom is doing whatever you want, whenever you want. But real men know that's slavery. Slavery to impulse, to weakness, to the moment. True freedom, the kind that builds legacies, is only found through discipline. Discipline with your body, discipline with your time, discipline with your money, discipline with your words. Discipline creates structure, and structure builds strength. No more chaos, no more drifting, no more apologizing for your own potential. With discipline, you set the direction. You lock in, you execute. That's power. You can start right now, not tomorrow, not Monday, not after this last thing. Now. Start with something small, something brutal, something consistent. Wake up at the same time every day. Train your body whether you feel like it or not. Clean your space. Cut the excuses. Silence the noise. Pick a standard, and never fall below it. That's how men are forged. Discipline hurts, but it's a clean pain. Excuses feel good, but they rot you from the inside. Discipline hurts, but it heals, it builds, it strengthens, it leaves you proud, not ashamed. Every drop of sweat, every early wake-up, every refusal to quit, adds weight to your integrity. You begin to trust yourself again, and that's worth everything. Because once you trust your word, you don't need external validation. You become your own source. You look in the mirror and know, I keep my promises. That's what discipline gives you. Your excuses die today, not because they aren't seductive, not because they won't return, but because you're done being ruled by them. The man you were, the one who justified, delayed, postponed, procrastinated, he doesn't belong here anymore. He served his purpose, but he's dead weight now. Burn the excuses, bury the stories, delete the alibis. It's time to work, quietly, consistently, without applause. You don't owe the world an explanation. You owe yourself execution. Discipline is not a cage. It's the key. Turn it and build. This is your life, and this chapter, this is where the excuses die, forever. Chapter 5. Silence is where the strongest men speak. Real strength doesn't need to be heard, it needs to be felt. A weak man shouts, a strong man doesn't need to. There's a kind of silence that speaks louder than any voice. It doesn't come from fear. It doesn't come from passivity. It comes from power. The kind of power that's been earned, not advertised. The kind that's born in the dark and tested in the light. The strongest men in the room don't dominate it with volume. They command it with presence. A look, a pause, a refusal to react. That's what unsettles the weak. That's what tells the room. He doesn't need to prove anything because he already knows who he is. Because they know something most men never learn. Words are cheap. Silence is costly. And what you've earned in solitude echoes louder than anything you say. Noise is easy. Stillness is mastery. The modern world is addicted to noise. Notifications, debates, opinions, commentary. Everybody has something to say. Everybody is broadcasting, tweeting, posting. Everyone wants to be seen. But the man who's truly grounded, he listens more than he talks. He observes. He studies. He measures twice, cuts once. He doesn't chase attention. He attracts respect. Stillness is not laziness. It's restraint. It's power under control. A mind that can be still is a weapon in a world of distractions. Silence is not absence. It's presence without insecurity. Weak men need to speak to prove they matter. Strong men prove it by how they live. Quietly, purposefully, relentlessly. Stillness is not emptiness. It is fullness under pressure. Silence builds the internal frame. You don't build strength by always expressing. You build it by containing. When you hold the tension, when you resist the urge to defend yourself, when you sit in discomfort instead of blurting for relief, that's where your character is carved. That's where the internal frame takes shape, the structure that holds you up when everything else collapses. A man who can remain silent when disrespected and still stand firm. A man who can listen to criticism without reacting. A man who doesn't need to win every argument because he's already won the war within himself. That man, dangerous. Because his peace is not borrowed, it's built. Because he doesn't need to be told he's strong, he already knows what he survived. Because every time he said nothing when he could have lashed out, he was sharpening the blade. The loudest voice in a room is often the most insecure. Look around. The men who brag the most often have the least to show. The ones who need credit, spotlight, applause, they're starving inside, desperate for attention, desperate to matter. Real power doesn't seek validation. It carries proof. It shows up in how a man treats people who can't help him. It shows up in his routines when no one's watching. It shows up in how he controls his emotions when every part of him wants to explode. True strength is quiet, not because it's hiding, but because it's focused. He doesn't need to tell you what he's building. You'll see it. He doesn't need to announce who he is. You'll feel it. And by the time you realize it, he's already 10 steps ahead. Solitude, the training ground of the strong. Silence is not just a moment, it's a discipline. Solitude is not emptiness. It's where you meet your deepest self, stripped of distractions, noise, and performance. It's where your inner world is refined, where your values are clarified, where your weaknesses are confronted without excuse. It's where you confront what you are, without the mask. Most men can't handle that. They need background noise to drown out the truth. They fear silence, because in silence, you can't lie. But the man who walks into solitude and stays there, who listens, who reflects, who sharpens, that man emerges with something rare. Clarity, conviction, command. He isn't lowly, he's aligning. He isn't isolated, he's insulated. And when he walks back into the world, you'll know he's been somewhere most men are too afraid to go. Let your actions speak louder than your voice. You want to be respected? Don't talk about how hard you work. Work. Don't talk about how much you've suffered. Endure. Don't post about how disciplined you are. Show up silently. Your schedule will speak. Your body will speak. Your habits will speak. Your results will speak. Let them whisper where others scream. Let them confirm what you already know. You don't need to interrupt. You don't need to explain. You just need to execute. Because when you move with consistency and control, people notice. Even if they don't say it. Especially if they don't. And eventually, the world adjusts to your standard. Not because you shouted it, but because you lived it. Be the man who speaks when necessary, and only then. Your voice is a weapon. Use it with intention. Don't waste it on opinions that don't matter. Don't throw it around trying to win approval. Let your words be few, but final. Let your presence do most of the talking. And when you do speak, speak truth. Not emotion, not insecurity, not reaction. Truth. Measured, precise, grounded. Be the man who others stop to listen to, not because he speaks often, but because when he does, it matters. Silence isn't weakness, it's warning. The man who doesn't react to disrespect, the man who nods instead of argues, the man who walks away without a word, is not weak. He's dangerous. Because his silence means he's choosing the battlefield. Because he knows when to fight and when to let fools burn their own fuel. He's not backing down. He's conserving energy. He's not passive. He's patient. And when he moves, it's final. He is calculating. He is precise. He's not avoiding confrontation. He's delaying judgment until it's most effective. That kind of man doesn't bluff. He just doesn't need to announce his next move. Master the power of saying nothing. Not every opinion needs your reaction. Not every insult needs your defense. Not every room needs your voice. Sometimes the most powerful thing a man can do is nothing. Hold the line, stay quiet, let your stillness scream. Because silence isn't absence, it's strategy, it's strength, it's signal. And the men who master it, they don't speak to be heard, they speak to end the conversation. Be that man. The one who doesn't need to prove himself, because he's already done it. Quietly, in silence, where the strongest men speak. Chapter 6. Chapter 6. The weak man avoids pain. The strong man uses it. Pain is not your enemy, it's your forge, your mirror, your map. Most men run from pain. They spend their whole lives trying to avoid it, numb it, drown it, deny it. They build their entire identity around insulation, soft routines, safe choices, fake peace. They hide behind comfort and sell it as balance. They decorate their prison and call it peace. But pain was never meant to be avoided. It was meant to shape you. The weak man sees pain as punishment. The strong man sees it as permission. Permission to dig deeper, to uncover what's false, to destroy the shallow version of himself and rebuild in steel. Pain doesn't break strong men. It reveals them. The modern man is addicted to numbness. We live in an age where anything uncomfortable is labeled as toxic, where discomfort is mistaken for danger, where effort is dismissed as obsession, where masculinity is mocked until it's needed, then expected on demand. Hard conversations are seen as violence. Hard effort is seen as trauma. We're sold comfort like it's salvation. A drink, a scroll, a pill, a swipe, a click. Every pain has an app. Every H has a distraction. But you weren't built for sedation. You were built for pressure, for grit, for war. And if you numb what hurts, you also numb what's trying to wake you up, what's trying to warn you, what's trying to mold you. You either hurt now or hurt later. You think you're avoiding pain by skipping the gym, by skipping the conversation, by putting off the hard choices. You're not. You're just choosing the delayed version of pain, the deeper version, the kind that arrives when you're too far gone to fight it properly. You skip the hard workout today, you pay for it in weakness tomorrow. You avoid the truth in your relationship, you pay for it in silence and resentment. You ignore your potential, you pay for it with regret. The most brutal pain of all. There is no escape. There's just transfer. You either hurt for the right reasons now, or for the wrong reasons later. Every shortcut has a toll. Every excuse has a cost. The weak man forgets that. The strong man doesn't. He embraces the pain now, so he won't have to beg for mercy later. Pain is a signal, not a sentence. Pain isn't final. It's feedback. It tells you where you're soft, where you're misaligned, where you've been lying to yourself. It's the bruise that warns of the break. It's the sting that points to the wound. It's the silence that screams louder than your voice. The weak man feels pain and collapses. The strong man feels pain and leans into it. He studies it. He holds it. He turns it in his hands until he sees what it came to teach him. Because every ache carries instruction. Every bruise is a map, a blueprint, a code. And if you ignore it, you stay lost. But if you learn to read it, you'll find the way out, and more importantly, the way forward. The man who faces pain finds power there. There's no growth without tension, no transformation without resistance, no greatness without suffering. You don't build a sharper blade without friction. You don't build thicker skin without exposure. You don't build resilience in the comfort of routine. Every man you admire, he's known pain. The physical kind, the emotional kind, the spiritual kind. He's watched things he loved die. He's buried dreams. He's carried burdens in silence. And he's kept going, because he understood something this world refuses to admit. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the entrance to meaning, to strength, to clarity. You want a crown? First, carry the cross. You want power? First, survive the pressure. You can't run from what lives inside you. You can move cities, change jobs, change names, change scenery. But if you haven't faced what's inside you, the guilt, the anger, the resentment, the fear, it'll follow you. It'll show up in your relationships, in your posture, in your habits, in your tone. Running won't save you. Numbing won't fix you. Only confrontation will. Brutal, honest confrontation. You have to face the pain, not once, every time it returns. Because pain never comes to destroy you, it comes to expose you, so you can finally rebuild what's real. Pain is the process of reinvention. Every man wants to be reborn. Few want to bleed. They want strength, but not soreness. Peace, but not pressure. Clarity, but not chaos. But you don't transform in theory, you transform in fire. The old version of you has to be torn apart. Every lazy habit, every lie you told yourself, every excuse you let live. Pain does that. It rips the costume off. It drags you into the mirror. It silences the noise until all you hear is truth. And truth, it hurts, but it also heals. Because after the burn, there's space. Space to rebuild, stronger, sharper, cleaner, and that new version of you. That's not born in peace. That's born in pain. Don't just survive pain, use it. Pain isn't just something to endure. It's something to leverage. Every scar is a story. Every loss is a lesson. Every setback is a signal. Let pain become your compass. Let it aim you at what matters. Let it refine what's false. Let it break what you never needed. Pain is pressure applied to weakness. And if you survive it, you're not just stronger, you're proven. So use it. Let it focus your energy. Let it simplify your priorities. Let it burn off the excess until all that's left is what's essential. Make pain your partner, not your enemy. A man who can suffer without collapsing is powerful. A man who can suffer and keep building is unstoppable. When you accept pain as part of the path, you move differently. You train harder. You love deeper. You speak less. You listen more. You stop chasing ease. You start chasing edge. And you start seeing pain not as punishment, but as proof. Proof that you're still alive. Proof that you're still fighting. Proof that something in you refuses to die quietly. That kind of man, you can't stop him. You can't manipulate him. You can't guilt him. Because he's been through worse and made it out better. The pain you carry is the proof you're still alive. You hurt? Good. That means you're not done. That means you haven't gone soft. That means you're in it. And in that pain you'll find your fight again. You'll find your purpose again. You'll find your edge again. Pain means you care. It means there's still something inside you worth protecting. So hold your pain like a torch, not a burden. Let it light your path forward. Let it fuel your discipline. Let it whisper when your mind wants to quit. This matters, because it does, because you do. And the man who feels his pain, then uses it. He becomes unstoppable, not because he's unbroken, but because he rebuilt, stronger. Chapter 7. The mirror doesn't lie. A man can lie to the world, but not to his reflection. Every man has a mirror. Not just the one hanging on the wall, but the one in his mind. The one he avoids. The one that sees past his words, his posture, his achievements. The one that reflects back the truth. The mirror doesn't care how many followers you have. It doesn't care what you drive. It doesn't care about your title. It shows you one thing: the gap between who you say you are and who you really are. And most men, they flinch. Because the truth stings. Not because it's cruel, but because it's clear. The mirror is brutal, but it's also fair. You can fake confidence. You can impress strangers. You can talk tough, dress sharp, post curated quotes. But when it's quiet, and it's just you and the mirror, that's when the game ends. Because the mirror doesn't accept spin. It doesn't respond to charm. It doesn't negotiate. It shows you the real score. Not the one you post, the one you live. And that's why most men avoid it. They look everywhere but inward. They'd rather scroll than reflect. Rather blame than accept. But nothing changes until you face it. Most men lie to themselves first. It's easy to point fingers. Easy to blame the world. Easy to say, it's not my fault. But the strongest men take ownership of the only thing they truly control, their reflection. Every excuse, every compromise, every missed workout, broken promise, skipped discipline, it's all there in the mirror, and it doesn't care why, only that it happened. You can justify all you want, but the mirror doesn't argue. It just reflects. You don't change your life by avoiding that. You change it by walking up to the mirror and saying, let's be honest. The mirror reveals the divide between who you are and who you could be. There's the man you are and the man you could be. One is shaped by fear, distraction, delay. The other is carved by discipline, action, clarity. The man you are, he's tired, frustrated, wondering why it's not working. The man you could be, he's waiting for you on the other side of discomfort. The mirror shows both and asks the only question that matters. What are you doing about it? Because you can dream all you want. You can read, plan, strategize. But the mirror doesn't reflect intentions. It reflects reality. The mirror doesn't care about your plans, only your patterns. You can say you want to be strong. You can say you want to lead. You can say you want to rise. But the mirror doesn't reflect declarations. It reflects disciplines. It reflects the 5 a.m. alarms you ignored, the workouts you skipped, the conversations you avoided, the standards you lowered. It reflects your habits, not your hopes, your actions, not your affirmations. And until those shift, your reflection won't. The mirror hurts because it's honest. It won't flatter you. It won't protect your ego. It won't let you hide behind distractions. It will tell you if you're soft, if you're wasting time, if you've been letting yourself down. But that pain, it's clean. It's not shame. It's signal. It's not condemnation. It's clarity. Because the moment you face the truth, you have a choice. Keep lying or change. You don't have to be proud of what you see, but you do have to face it. The reflection doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be complete. It just has to be honest. You're allowed to be a work in progress. You're not allowed to lie about the work. You're allowed to struggle. You're not allowed to fake effort. You're allowed to fall. You're not allowed to pretend you didn't. Face the flaws, own the gaps, call out the laziness, then move. Not emotionally, but strategically. You don't need a million opinions. You need one reflection and the courage to study it. Let it guide your changes. Let it direct your habits. Let it expose the gap, then close it. The world doesn't need another man pretending. It needs one man becoming. And it starts right there, with the mirror. Every morning, every choice, every chapter. No lies, just truth. No mask, just mission. Look, own, build. Because the mirror doesn't lie. Chapter 8. Standards are the ceiling of your life. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your standards. Every man has a ceiling, not one built by fate, not one assigned by genetics, privilege, or chance, but one built by standards. The quiet rules you live by, the expectations you refuse to drop, the line in the sand you refuse to cross. Your life doesn't reflect what you want. It reflects what you accept. And what you accept becomes your ceiling. You don't outperform your standards. You don't out-hustle what you tolerate. You don't build a life you respect while compromising the rules that govern it. The man you become is not sculpted in your goals. He's forged in your daily minimums, the things you do regardless of how you feel. Most men have aspirations, few have standards. Everyone has dreams, few have requirements. Most men talk about what they want. Very few demand it from themselves daily. They say, I want peace, but surround themselves with chaos. I want discipline, but tolerate disorder. I want strength, but live in comfort. The difference between the man who changes and the one who stays stuck. Standards. A man doesn't need more ambition, he needs more conviction. Conviction to say, I don't rise when I feel like it. I rise because this is who I am. You don't need a new dream. You need a demand that lives at your core. Something that says, this is the line. I don't go below it. Your standards are showing, whether you admit it or not. You can claim anything you want, but your life tells the truth. Your body, it reflects your physical standards. Your finances, they reflect your discipline with money. Your relationships, they reflect your emotional maturity, your boundaries, your consistency. Your habits are loud, your attitude even louder. And if something in your life is consistently weak, it's because you've allowed it to be. You've normalized something beneath you. You haven't demanded better yet. But when your standard changes, everything else does too. Not with force, not with luck, but with aligned, relentless consistency. Comfort lowers standards. Pressure raises them. Comfort is seductive. It whispers, take it easy. And once you start lowering the bar, it doesn't stop there. You cut one corner, then two. You skip one rep, then the whole set. You lie to yourself once, then you forget what honesty feels like. Comfort chips away your edge, one silent compromise at a time. The pressure reminds you. It snaps you back into alignment. It holds up a mirror and demands, is this who you said you'd be? Pressure is the refiner's fire, and the men who survive it, they don't just return stronger. They return with standards so high, the old version of themselves wouldn't recognize them. You don't need motivation. You need a standard you refuse to violate. Motivation is emotional. Standards are structural. Motivation disappears in the cold. Standards rise with the sun. Motivation makes decisions based on how you feel. Standards make decisions based on who you are. The man who lives by motivation, he's a slave to mood swings. But the man with non-negotiables, he's grounded, predictable, dangerous. He gets up early, not because it's easy. He trains tired, not because it's fun. He executes, because that's the standard. And the result? Confidence born from consistency, pride born from effort, peace born from integrity. You can't have high results with low standards. Want elite results? Then stop living like an amateur. You can't build a life of excellence while tolerating mediocrity. You can't have peace with chaos in your calendar. You can't build strength with excuses in your schedule. You can't lead if you can't follow your own rules. Raising your results isn't magic, it's mechanical. When you raise the bar on your inputs, your outputs rise every single time. The level you live at is directly linked to the level you refuse to live beneath. Your standards are contagious, for better or worse. You think your standards are just about you. They're not. Your team sees them. Your children feel them. Your circle absorbs them. You are the thermostat. You set the room's energy. You enforce the floor. Not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. When you raise your standards, life gets simpler, not easier. High standards don't eliminate adversity, they eliminate ambiguity. You no longer ask, should I skip this? You don't. You longer debate, can I quit now? You won't. Life is still hard, but it's cleaner, clearer, more efficient. When you play is pre-pass, PIP. That's the simplicity of high standards. They remove internal conflict. They cut off negotiation. They leave only action. Don't just raise the standard, protect it. It's easy to set a high standard when things are smooth. Harder to hold it when the storm hits. But that's the test. Can you protect the standard when no one's watching? When everyone around you is lowering theirs? When quitting would feel good, just for a moment? The man who holds the line builds the life. That integrity bleeds into everything. You speak with more weight. You walk with more presence. You live with more clarity. Because you're not bluffing. You're not acting. You are the standard. Your life will never outrun your standards. You can have ambition. You can have a vision board. You can have 10-year goals, but none of it will exceed what you tolerate today. Not your words, not your intentions, not your intentions, just your standards. Chapter 9, Momentum over Mood. You don't move when you feel ready. You move, and that makes you ready. Every man has a choice. Chase moods or build momentum. Moods lie, momentum doesn't. Moods are emotional weather, temporary, unstable, unreliable. One moment you're fired up, the next you're flatlined. And if you let mood dictate movement, you'll live stuck, waiting for a feeling that may never come. But momentum, that's built, that's earned, that's sustained by discipline, not dopamine. It carries you when motivation collapses. It pushes you forward when your emotions try to drag you back. The men who move consistently, especially when they don't feel like it, they build a power no mood can match. Moods are liars. Motion tells the truth. Your feelings will betray you, often, dramatically. They'll tell you you're tired when you're just unchallenged. They'll whisper, "Take it easy," when you're on the edge of a breakthrough. If you listen to them, you'll stay soft. If you wait on them, you'll stay stagnant. But the moment you move, the moment you take action anyway, the fog starts to lift. The mind sharpens, the energy builds, the truth returns. And the truth is this: action is the cure. You don't need a better mood. You need a harder move. Start cold. Start unready. Just start. Waiting to feel ready is weakness in disguise. It's procrastination dressed as wisdom. No man ever built greatness by waiting until he felt inspired. He started cold, he started tired, he started unsure, and he moved anyway. That's how momentum is born, not from hype, but from movement. One rep, one sentence, one disciplined breath, and suddenly, the resistance fades. The excuses dissolve. The machine kicks in. Start ugly. Start imperfect. Just start. Discipline builds the engine. Movement keeps it running. Discipline is the starter. Movement is the fuel. You don't just need to show up once. You need to keep showing up, especially after the applause ends. Because momentum isn't built in the hype. It's built in the repetition. In the second week when you're sore. In the third month when progress slows. In the sixth year when no one claps anymore. The man who keeps moving, who trains when he's uninspired, who writes when he's blank, who works when he's bored, that man becomes unstoppable. Because he's not driven by feelings, he's driven by identity. Momentum doesn't need permission. It needs consistency. You don't ask your feelings for approval. You give them direction. You don't wait for the mood to hit. You hit the ground and let the mood catch up. You keep doing the work, stacking wins, compounding movement. And what happens? Your mind catches up to your body. Your energy rises to meet your output. Start cold. start unready. Just start. Waiting to feel ready is weakness in disguise. It's procrastination dressed as wisdom. No man ever built greatness by waiting until he felt inspired. He started cold, he started tired, he started unsure, and he moved anyway. That's how momentum is born, not from hype, but from movement. One rep, one sentence, one disciplined breath, and suddenly the resistance fades. The excuses dissolve, the machine kicks in. Start ugly, start imperfect. Just start. Discipline builds the engine. Movement keeps it running. Discipline is the starter, movement is the fuel. You don't just need to show up once, you need to keep showing up, especially after the applause ends. Because momentum isn't built in the hype, it's built in the repetition. In the second week when you're sore, in the third month when progress slows, in the sixth year when no one claps anymore. The man who keeps moving, who trains when he's uninspired, who writes when he's blank, who works when he's bored, that man becomes unstoppable. Because he's not driven by feelings, he's driven by identity. Momentum doesn't need permission. It needs consistency. You don't ask your feelings for approval. You give them direction. You don't wait for the mood to hit. You hit the ground and let the mood catch up. You keep doing the work, stacking wins, compounding movement. And what happens? Your mind catches up to your body. Your energy rises to meet your output. Your confidence grows, not from comfort, but from confrontation. And suddenly, you're in motion. Not because you waited, but because you moved. Break the loop. Mood, delay, guilt, repeat. This is how most men live. They wait until they feel like it. They don't. They delay. Then guilt hits. Then they promise to do better. Then they delay again. Break that loop. Interrupt it with movement, not a grand gesture, a small act. Not a perfect day, a perfect next step. Guilt has no place in momentum. It's replaced with confidence, built in motion. Build systems that don't care about your mood. You don't need new goals. You need new systems. Systems that ask one thing. Did you move today? That's it. Not did you crush it. Not did you feel great. Just did you move. That's how momentum compounds. One standard, one step, repeated relentlessly. The man with unshakable systems outperforms the man with fluctuating feelings. Every time. Moods drift, momentum drives. Your feelings are wind. Momentum is engine. One shifts, the other powers through. Every day, you get to choose. Will you be steered by feelings or by force? Weak men drift, strong men drive, and the steering wheel is always within reach. It just starts with a move. Chapter 10. The man who waits dies waiting. Time doesn't care what you're planning. It moves, with or without you. There's a quiet graveyard where too many men live, not buried in the ground, but buried in delay. And they're just a little longer, waiting for the right time, waiting for permission, waiting to be less scared, more ready, more perfect. And in that waiting, they rot. Not all at once, but slowly, quietly, regretfully. Because here's the truth no one wants to admit. The man who waits dies waiting. Most men are planning. Few are pursuing. Talk to most men long enough and they'll eventually tell you, I'm thinking about it. I'm working on a plan. I just need to fix a few things first. And then, a year passes. Then 5. Still waiting. Still plotting. Still circling the runway, with no liftoff in sight. But here's what the strong man knows. You don't get more clarity by sitting still. You get it by stepping in. Plans don't build character. Movement does. Delay is the death of potential. Every day you delay, your resistance gets stronger. You give it oxygen. You give it ground. You teach your mind that it's okay to wait. that it's okay to lie to yourself. And soon, waiting becomes who you are. You're no longer a man in motion. You're a man in pause who forgot how to press play. That's how regret is born, in quiet increments, in harmless delays that stack into a lifetime. The illusion of the right time. There is no right time. Fear thrives in delay. Fear feeds on hesitation. The longer you wait, the louder it gets. The more you analyze, the more it paralyzes. But when you move, you steal its power. You interrupt its pattern. You train your brain that fear is not the master. Movement is. You don't need less fear. You need more forward motion. Because action is what fear can't survive. There is only time and what you do with it. You think next week will be easier? You think next month you'll be stronger? You think next year you'll be less afraid? You won't be. You'll be older, more burdened, less sharp, less clear, less connected to the fire inside you. If it needs to be done, do it now. If it matters, start now. The longer you wait, the more the window closes. And the man who waits too long watches it slam shut. You can't think your way into confidence. Confidence is built through confrontation, not contemplation. You don't become more sure of yourself by waiting until you're sure. You build certainty by moving into uncertainty, by choosing courage over comfort, by stepping forward when nothing guarantees success. Confidence is not a feeling you wait for, it's a consequence you earn. Every time you act despite the doubt, you build belief. Every time you execute through fear, you make fear smaller. And one day, you stop needing reassurance, because your actions already answered the question. Clarity comes from commitment. Men say, "I'm not clear yet." That's because you haven't committed. You don't need clarity to commit. You commit to create clarity. Action refines focus. Movement reveals truth. You figure it out by doing it, not by waiting to feel ready. Every man waiting for answers before he moves never moves. But the man who moves anyway, he becomes the answer. The wait is wasting your life. While you wait, someone else is building. Someone else is bleeding for the thing you're still dreaming about. Someone else is using the time you're throwing away. And one day, if you don't change, you'll watch him win. And you'll wonder what could have happened if you had just started. That's not jealousy. That's justice. Life doesn't reward intention. It rewards initiative. Chapter 11. Burnout is not the problem. Lack of purpose is. Exhaustion doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from doing too little of what matters. Burnout, the modern epidemic. It's on every podcast, every blog, every therapist's couch. Too many demands, too little time, not enough rest. That's the narrative. But it's not the truth, because burnout isn't caused by doing too much. It's caused by doing too little of what actually matters. Burnout isn't a product of effort. It's a symptom of aimlessness. It's what happens when your engine keeps turning, but you're going nowhere. A man can work 14 hours a day and feel energized if he believes in the mission. He can work 3 hours a day and feel destroyed if he doesn't. The issue isn't exhaustion, it's emptiness. You're not overwhelmed, you're under-purposed. When a man is plugged into purpose, pressure doesn't crush him, it clarifies him. But take that same pressure and remove the why, it becomes unbearable. When your work has no meaning, your energy evaporates. When your days lack aim, your soul suffocates. You start to question everything. Why am I doing this? What's the point? Is this it? You think you're broken. You think you're weak. You think you're lazy. You're not. You're just disconnected. Movement without meaning is madness. The world praises hustle. Go faster, do more, sleep less. But what if you're sprinting in the wrong direction? Movement is the only exit. You want a new life? You want freedom? You want strength? clarity, impact, then move. Before you're ready, before it's perfect, before you feel like it. Because the man who waits, he builds nothing, he earns nothing, he becomes nothing. But the man who acts, he may fail, he may fall, he may look foolish, but he builds, he learns, he becomes something more. Every day, the decision is the same. Wait or move. One leads to regret, the other to rebirth. Choose wisely, because the man who waits dies waiting. But what if you're sprinting in the wrong direction? What if your ladder is on the wrong wall? What if you're climbing to a peak that doesn't matter to you? The strong man doesn't just ask, "What's next?" He asks, "Why am I still doing this?" Because unchecked motion is chaos, and speed without aim is suicide. Movement is not progress, unless it's aligned. Discipline without direction destroys discipline, is powerful, but it's not always noble. A man can be ruthlessly disciplined in the wrong direction. He can show up every day, hit every deadline, meet every metric, and still be miserable. Why? Because he's building something that doesn't match who he is. Busyness is not fulfillment, and excellence in the wrong area is still failure. The real question is, does your output match your values? Does your grind connect to your goals? Does your effort fuel your soul or fracture it? If not, burnout is coming. Not because you worked too hard, but because you worked without heart. You're not lazy. You're disengaged. Men hate admitting they feel tired. Tired of trying. Tired of failing. Tired of pretending they're okay. But laziness isn't usually the issue. It's disengagement. Disengagement from purpose. Disengagement from self. Disengagement from the path they were meant to walk. You don't need more sleep. You need more fire. You need a reason to rise. You need a reason to hurt. You need a reason that makes discomfort worth it. Purpose isn't optional. It's oxygen. And when it's gone, everything suffocates. Hard work doesn't kill you, a hollow life does. There's a lie in culture that rest is the solution to burnout, that less is always more. But what if your soul is starved, not your schedule? What if you don't need to do less? What if you need to do more of what matters? You were made to carry weight, to work, to wrestle, to build. The problem isn't effort, it's emptiness. If your effort has no anchor, you drift. And drifting is exhausting. But plug your work into purpose, suddenly, pain becomes meaningful, sacrifice becomes sacred, and work becomes worship. Purpose is the compass. Without it, you get lost. When you lack purpose, your days feel random. You react instead of lead. You wander instead of walk. But when you're connected to purpose, you make decisions faster. You say no with conviction. You stay in your lane. Purpose cuts through noise. It filters distractions. It simplifies decisions. It gives your energy a home, your mind a mission, your spirit a center. Without it, you're just spinning. With it, you're aimed. You don't need a break. You need a mission. Vacations don't fix burnout. Neither do naps, new hobbies, or dopamine fasts. If your soul is starving, more leisure won't feed it. Only purpose does that. When you lock into something real, you don't count hours, you don't count costs. You move because it matters. Chapter 12. Stop negotiation with your inner weakness. Every time you negotiate with your weakness, it wins a little more of you. There's a voice inside every man, soft, seductive, logical. It says things like, "You've done enough for today. You're tired. Rest a bit. Just skip it. You'll get back on track tomorrow." It never shouts. It whispers. It wears the mask of reason. But that voice isn't helping you. It's hollowing you out. That voice is your weakness. And every time you sit down at the table and negotiate with it, you give it ground. You give it power. You let it shape who you are. Weakness doesn't arrive loud. It arrives dressed as logic. Weakness never kicks the door down. It creeps in. It shows up wearing good reasons and tired eyes. It tells you you've earned comfort, that discipline can wait, that one compromise doesn't matter. But behind every reasonable excuse is a deeper surrender. Because weakness doesn't need to destroy you, it just needs you to agree with it. Slowly, daily. The moment you argue with excuses, you've already lost. Excuses are brilliant debaters. They know your story, your history, your wounds. They'll twist truth into half-truth. They'll take your pain and sell you permission to quit. But here's what most men don't realize. The second you start debating weakness, you're already behind. You don't reason with a fire, you put it out. You don't argue with weakness, you override it. You move. Without emotion, without delay. That's the only language weakness doesn't understand. And that's how you silence it. Discipline is a decision, not a dialogue. You think strong men have stronger feelings? They don't. They just don't negotiate with them. They feel the fatigue. They feel the distraction. They feel the temptation to delay. But they move anyway. Because the standard doesn't change. Because the work is non-negotiable. That's discipline. Not a feeling, a framework. Not a mood, a mandate. Every compromise is training, in the wrong direction. Every time you delay, quit, or cut corners, you're not just losing time. You're training yourself. You're teaching your brain that your excuses are valid. You're telling your body that comfort is the goal. And over time, that becomes who you are. But the reverse is also true. Every time you push through, every time you say no to the excuse and yes to the work, you're reinforcing strength. You're becoming the man who moves, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. The body doesn't forget, neither does the mind. Your body remembers every skipped rep. Your mind remembers every broken promise. And together, they start to doubt you. That's why it gets harder. Not because you're incapable, but because you've trained yourself not to trust your own word. You say, tomorrow, and your body flinches because it's heard it before. But keep your word daily, and everything changes. Your mind sharpens, your confidence rises, your body responds. Not because it's easy, because you stopped negotiating. Weakness wants you emotional. Strength wants you strategic. The more you feel, the more excuses you have. I'm not motivated. I'm not seeing results. That's emotion talking. And weakness loves when you listen. But strength isn't emotional. It's surgical. It's mechanical. It's focused. It says, this is what I do. This is what I said I'd do. So I do it. No discussion. No loopholes. No exit. Kill the debate. Build the decision. You can't kill weakness by arguing with it. You kill it by removing the debate altogether. Wake up and move. Feel resistance and move. See no progress and move. Because motion is what builds momentum. And momentum is what builds identity. You don't need more inspiration. You need less negotiation. Draw a line in the sand. This is who I am. This is what I do. No more deals. And then do it. Again, and again, and again. Until the voice of weakness fades. Until your action is louder than your excuses. Until you've become the man who no longer negotiates with weakness, because he's already defeated it. Chapter 13. Your emotions are signals, not commands. Feelings aren't facts, and they don't get to lead your life. Your emotions are not your enemy, but they're not your king either. They're messengers, not masters. Not commands. They're trying to tell you something, But it's on you to decide what to do with what they say. Because the moment you start obeying your emotions without inspection, they own you. And a man ruled by emotion, he is unstable, untrustworthy, and weak. The strongest men feel everything, but are led by nothing. You feel it all: frustration, doubt, fear, shame, anger, apathy. They show up, and you acknowledge them. Weakness says, I feel this way, so I must act on it. Strength says, I feel this way, but I choose what comes next. Feelings may rise, but they do not get to reign. Emotion is a signal. Action is a choice. Anger might be telling you something's off. Fear might be alerting you to risk. Sadness might be pointing to something you need to grieve or confront. But just because an emotion speaks, doesn't mean it's right. And it definitely doesn't mean it decides the outcome. You're still in charge. You're still the builder. Your emotions may knock, but you don't have to open the door. You can't build a life on emotional weather. If your actions shift with every emotional change, you won't go anywhere. One day, you're on fire. The next, you disappear. 1 week you're locked in. The next, you're lost. That's not strength. That's instability. And a man who leads himself must be stable. You want peace? You want progress? Then you have to stop letting feelings write the script. Because if emotions lead, discipline dies. Emotional maturity is not feeling less, it's commanding more. You don't outgrow emotion, you outgrow your reaction to it. The strong man doesn't stop feeling. He simply refuses to let those feelings drive his decisions. He doesn't punch the wall when he's angry. He doesn't spiral when he's sad. He doesn't chase the dopamine hit just because he's bored. He feels the storm, but he stays planted. He feels the chaos, but he acts with clarity. That's emotional leadership. That's strength. Your emotions are not evil. They're information. You feel anxious. Maybe you've been avoiding something. You feel angry. Maybe a boundary's been crossed. You feel numb. Maybe you've been out of alignment. There's data in every emotion. But you have to extract it, not obey it. You can learn from your feelings, but you don't live for them. You examine, you extract the truth. Then you move on the decision, not the feeling. Men who obey emotion become slaves to impulse. You want to see a man fall? Watch him obey every emotional impulse. He says the thing he regrets. He posts the thing he can't take back. He quits when it gets hard. He indulges when he should restrain. He's not leading his life. He's reacting to it. And the more he obeys that emotion, the more powerless he becomes. Feelings don't deserve the throne. Purpose does. You don't follow your feelings. You follow your principles. When feelings scream, quit, your principles whisper, continue. When emotion shouts, react, your purpose says, respond. Your direction isn't determined by how you feel. It's anchored in what you've decided matters. And that anchoring? That's what allows you to move, regardless of mood. Discipline doesn't care how you feel, and that's its power. Discipline is deaf. It doesn't listen to how you feel. It doesn't flinch when your emotions shift. It's a steady hand when everything else is chaos. That's why strong men lean on it. Because it's stable. It's reliable. When you don't feel like it, discipline shows up. When you want to quit, discipline keeps walking. Because discipline isn't about feeling ready. It's about honoring your standard, no matter what. Let the feeling come. Let the standard stay. You will feel tired. You will feel overwhelmed. You will feel like giving up. That's part of the game. But what separates strong men? They let the feeling pass, and they keep showing up. They don't shame the feeling. They don't suppress it. They simply refuse to surrender to it. That's what builds consistency. That's what builds resilience. That's what builds peace. Not perfection, but power over emotion. Emotion isn't the enemy. Entitlement is. You're not weak for feeling. You're weak when you believe the feeling gives you an excuse to quit. You're not soft for having a bad day. You're soft when you let the bad day define you. Every man feels, but not every man folds. The ones who don't, they've learned to see emotion as a guide, not a god. They listen, then they lead. That's strength. That's maturity. That's what makes a man unshakable. Chapter 14. The same path of the world. If you won't become who you're meant to be, if you're always surrounded by who you used to be, is a part of the path no one tells you about, where people fall away, where invitations stop, where validation dries up, where the room empties and you're left with just yourself. It's not because you failed, it's because you're rising. And to rise, you have to separate. You can't become something new while clinging to the old. You can't evolve while dragging the weight of comfort and approval. So the path narrows and the circle shrinks, and for a while, you walk alone. Growth requires isolation. Most men say they want growth, but they don't want separation. They want transformation without solitude. But here's the truth. You can't carry your old identity into a new chapter. You can't stay in the crowd and expect clarity. The strongest men know this. They don't fear the silence. They don't fear the distance. They lean into it, because that's where the real war begins, and where the real man is born. Loneliness isn't a curse, it's a crucible. The strongest men aren't those with the loudest crowds. They're the ones who stood firm when the crowd left. They built alone. They fought alone. They faced doubt without applause, because they weren't building for likes. They were building for legacy, and legacy is forged in silence. It's not the presence of people that makes a man powerful. It's the presence of discipline when no one's watching. You can't hear your calling in a crowd. Noise kills direction, and most men live in noise. Opinions, distractions, groupthink, gossip. The crowd pulls you sideways. It dilutes your instincts. It demands that you stay the same because your change threatens their comfort. But your purpose, it won't shout over that noise. It speaks in whispers. And to hear it, you'll have to get quiet. You'll have to step away. You'll have to walk alone for a while. Separation isn't rejection, it's refinement. When people fall away, you think you did something wrong. You didn't. You just stopped playing small. You just stopped fitting in a story you've outgrown. And that's a good thing, because the wrong company will comfort your weakness. The right solitude will confront it. And that confrontation, that's where the work happens, where the shadows get exposed, where the excuses get burned, where the real you starts to rise. Most men are terrified of solitude. Strong men seek it. The average man can't stand silence. He drowns it with noise, music, screens, people, distraction. Because in silence, the truth shows up, and most aren't ready for that. But the strong man, he walks toward it. He turns down the volume. He meets himself in the mirror. You're not abandoned. You're being reforged. When the path gets lonely, you'll be tempted to go back. Back to comfort. Back to the crowd. Back to who you were. But don't mistake separation for punishment. It's preparation. You're not alone because you're unworthy. You're alone because you're becoming. You're being shaped into someone the world hasn't seen yet. Someone who doesn't flinch under pressure. Someone who doesn't crumble without company. You're becoming someone rare. And that process, it isn't crowded. Walk alone long enough. You'll build a life that attracts the right ones. This isn't forever, but it is necessary. Because once you've walked through the fire alone, you stop needing, you start discerning, and from that strength, you draw people aligned with it. Not leashes, Not distractions, not enablers, but equals. Men who've done the work. Men who don't fear the quiet. Men who carry their own weight. But first, you walk alone. Silence is where conviction is born. Your mission isn't born in a room full of noise. It's born in stillness. In those early mornings where no one's cheering. In those late nights where no one's watching. That's where your standards are set. That's where your resolve is built. That's where your voice gets forged. The world wants to rush you out of solitude. But that solitude is sacred. Stay there until the mission is clear. Stay there until your inner voice is louder than the world's noise. You're not abandoned. You're being reforged. When the path gets lonely, you'll be tempted to go back. Back to comfort. Back to the crowd. Back to who you were. But don't mistake separation for punishment. It's preparation. You're not alone because you're unworthy. You're alone because you're becoming. You're being shaped into someone the world hasn't seen yet. Someone who doesn't flinch under pressure. Someone who doesn't crumble without company. You're becoming someone rare. And that process, it isn't crowded. Walk alone long enough. You'll build a life that attracts the right ones. This isn't forever, but it is necessary. Because once you've walked through the fire alone, you stop needing, you start discerning, and from that strength, you draw people aligned with it. Not leashes, not distractions, not enablers, but equals. Men who've done the work. Men who don't fear the quiet. Men who carry their own weight. But first, you walk alone. Silence is where conviction is born. Your mission isn't born in a room full of noise. It's born in stillness. In those early mornings where no one's cheering. In those late nights where no one's watching. That's where your standards are set. That's where your resolve is built. That's where your voice gets forged. The world wants to rush you out of solitude. But that solitude is sacred. Stay there until the mission is clear. Stay there until your inner voice is louder than the world's noise. Chapter 15. This was never about hype. This was about you. Motivation fades. Hype fades. But identity, that stays. If you've made it this far, it means something inside you refused to quit. Not just your body, not just your habits, but something deeper. Your hunger. Your refusal to keep living as half a man. Your decision to face the mirror and build what matters. This wasn't about likes. This wasn't about followers. This wasn't about becoming louder. It was about becoming stronger, more grounded, more capable, more real. This was never about hype. It was always about you. Your pain, your standards, your truth. The fire that burns slow and never dies. Hype is loud, purpose is quiet. Hype screams, purpose whispers. Hype is short-lived, purpose is sustained through decades. You don't need to shout. You don't need fireworks. You don't need applause. You need clarity. You need consistency. You need a mission that doesn't waver when no one's watching. Because hype disappears in the silence. But a man built on mission, he becomes louder when it gets quiet. He works without applause. He shows up when it's boring. He holds the line when no one claps, no one sees, and no one cares. That's the difference. That's who you're becoming. You don't need momentum. You are the momentum. There's no finish line, only forward. This journey doesn't end. There's no final form, no moment where it all gets easy and you finally relax. The man who thinks he's arrived dies standing still. But the man who understands the process becomes infinite. There is no arrival, only deeper mastery, more precision, higher standards. You don't arrive, you advance. One rep, one decision, 1 inch at a time. It's not about hitting a peak. It's about building a base so solid that nothing, no emotion, no loss, no hardship can shake it. This was never about reaching a mountaintop. It was about becoming the kind of man who builds mountains, no matter what, no matter who stays or leaves, no matter how long it takes. This wasn't for the world. It was for the man in the mirror. No one else needed to understand. No one else needed to clap. This was between you and you. The boy who used to run. The man who used to numb. The one who used to compromise, excuse, delay, and blame. This was your reckoning. And now, it's your rebirth. You stopped waiting to be saved. You stopped hoping someone would hand you the answer. You looked at yourself, and you took responsibility. You don't need a crowd. You don't need their approval. You just need your word. And the man you become by keeping it. That's it. You are the project. You are the weapon. This whole thing, it wasn't about routines, or mind hacks, or surface-level productivity. It was about becoming dangerous, in the best way, not reckless, not reactive, but unbreakable. A man who knows what he stands for. A man who cannot be bought. A man who can be trusted with weight. You're not just building systems, you're building a spine. You're not just chasing progress, you're becoming pressure-resistant. And you are the project, and you are the weapon. Sharpen yourself, shape yourself, lead yourself, because no one's coming to do it for you. The real work begins when the world stops watching. Motivation is easy when the video is playing, when the music's loud, when the fire's fresh. But tomorrow, next week, 6 months from now, when it's quiet again, when life feels heavy again, when progress slows and no one is clapping, that's when this all gets real. Because that's when you find out who you are and what you're really made of. It's not about how high you jump when you're fired up. It's about how hard you push when you feel nothing. That's the proving ground. That's where the real ones are born. No one wants to be clear. Let go of the noise. Anchor to the work. You don't need more opinions. You don't need more hype. You don't need another hit of dopamine. You need your own code, your own rhythm, your own reasons. Make your life a quiet rebellion. Not a loud performance. Let your actions speak for you. Let your habits write the script. Let your results be undeniable. You don't need a stage, you need a standard. And you don't need a crowd, you just need courage. This is the end of excuse, the start of execution. You've heard enough. You've learned enough. You've waited enough. Now you move. Now you build. Now you become. No more about the start of execution. Now you are greater than how you feel. You won't always be fired up. You won't always be inspired. You won't always feel ready. But you'll always be responsible. And the man you're becoming doesn't need hype. He needs truth. He needs standards. He needs daily decisions that align with the man he said he'd be. This life is not built on adrenaline. It's built on alignment. Because it was never about hype. It was about you. And the man you were born to become, he's already waking up. Don't stop now. The world doesn't need another loud man. It needs a solid one. Be that man. Keep going. This was never entertainment. It was a mirror, a hammer, a call to rebuild. No more hype, no more waiting, no more halfway living. You've seen what's possible. Now it's your turn to build it. You are the standard now, so move like it. Lead like it. Dark Wood Audiobooks. For the man who's done pretending and ready to rebuild.